Now let's look at assignment 1.8. Each one of these has some incorrect notation or confusing notation. The first one is in 6/8, so the beat should be a dotted quarter note, right, with a subdivision into 3/8 notes. And the beaming here shows 2/8 note groups, so that's not right. So I'm going to re-notate this with the same pitches, but grouping the 8th notes into threes. Right, now it's more appropriate for 6/8. That's what 6/8 would look like. All right, moving on to number 2. It's 2/4, so we have a quarter note beat. And that means we're going to have to divide those 16th notes right there. There shouldn't be a beam crossing over from beat 1 to beat 2. So all I need to do is separate those 16th note groups into sets of 4. One for beat 1, one for beat 2. Okay, number 3 is actually nothing particularly wrong with this, but you could make it even clearer by putting in a couple of quarter note rests and then a quarter note. Is this necessary? Not so much, but that's typical. More typical to use quarter note rests in 3/4 for some reason. Number 4, my first beat is not beamed together. It certainly should be. So there's beat 1, and here is beat 2. Number 5, the first beat looks fine, but then what's happening after that? There's beat 2 and beat 3 are tied together, but that's not the way you would expect to see it. So I'll keep beat 1 the same. Beat 2, I can combine that dotted quarter and that 8th into just a simple half note. So that makes much more sense. Now number 6, this is equivalent to 9/8 notes, but that's not how you would see this written. The beat is a dotted quarter, and this doesn't illustrate the beat in any way. What I'm going to do, that single 8th note all by itself is kind of strange. I'm going to write out the first 2 beats by putting in a dotted half note. That's beat 1 and beat 2. Now here's beat 3, and I'll tie those together. There's no one note you could use to do this for 9/8, so this is what you would typically see. Right? Moving on to number 7, I really don't see anything. This is 3/4. I see 3/4 note beats. Looks good. I'm not going to make any changes to that one. Unless I'm misunderstanding something, that one's fine. Number 8, this should be a dotted quarter beat because it's 6/8. But this doesn't seem to line up with the beat. So I take that first quarter note. Now I need 3/8 notes in my first beat. So there's the next 8. That's all of beat 1. Now starting beat 2, I'll take the rest of that A, tie it over, and then put the B flat on the end. So you can see I needed a division. I needed to divide that note with a tie so that I could more clearly see where beat 2 started. Right? So that's a trickier one. Number 9. This doesn't show divisions, quarter note beats very well. I need to break the beam there after the first 2 8th notes for one thing. So I'll do that. Here's beat 1. This is followed by an 8th note that's tied to a dotted quarter. That really doesn't have to be that way. I guess I could put beat 2 and tie that to beat 3 as 2 quarters, and then beat 4 as the last quarter. Now this is fine, but in this case, we could, instead of putting a quarter tied to a quarter, we could replace that with a half note. This is fine for 4/4 meters. It is crossing over beat 3, but it is doing it in that it takes up both beat 2 and beat 3, so it's reasonable. Number 10 is in 4/4. Beat 1 looks fine. Beat 2 is beamed to an extra 8th note there. That's too many things beamed together, so we need to break the beam right there. Yep, so we'll put beat 1 in here, 2/16 and an 8th. Also beat 2 has 2/16 and an 8th. And then that other 8th note is going to be the beginning of beat 3, and then the 8th note that follows is the second part of beat 3. So that's beamed together now, and then there's beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's the correct way of notating all of these.